Well, I am trying to, Tristan. Now have a look at those beautiful tracks in the sand. Those are lion tracks. I'd like to get out and show them to you properly, but I can't because they are the lions. It's the lions that we heard, and we've managed to find them. Now, some of you often ask us, how do we find these animals? What are we looking for? Well, the main thing is, of course, the tracks that we can sometimes see in the sand. They leave their tracks behind, the prints. And these are very fresh tracks because they're on top of the vehicle tracks that drove through this area this morning. And then, of course, we also heard the lions calling earlier. They were growling at one another. And that alerted us into which area they might be. We drove through the bush for a while and then came across the fresh tracks and followed them down and found the lions. Blake and Nico, is it Nico or Miko? Sorry, I didn't hear that properly. You were asking how old lions can get. And Blake and Nico, the lions on average, lionesses, the females can get to about 15 or 17 years old, between 15 and 17 years old. And the males, on average, it's between 10 and 12 years old. So not as long as the females, but it does depend. Occasionally, a pride might do very well. They will be very successful, have a lot of good hunters within the pride, and the lions might live a little bit longer. But that's the average age for males and females. Now, I'm so happy to see this pride again, and they're looking very good, very healthy. I haven't seen them for quite a long time. I've been away, so it's great to see them. There are two males. I'm going to try to show you the two males. Maybe they're lying in the long grass at the moment. Kylie, you were asking about the male lions, and if all male lions have got those big manes, that beautiful hair around the head and the neck. And Kylie, you know what, to be honest, not really, not always. There is an area in Africa that is well known for male lions that do not have manes. It's known as Tsavo. There was actually a film made about Tsavo and the maneless lions that occurred in the area. And I think one of the main reasons for that is possibly the vegetation, the heat, and maybe genetics. Sometimes genetics often determines whether the lions have got that big head of hair. Sometimes they might not. I think it's got to do with all of that area, vegetation, heat, genetics, and sometimes they don't. But most of the lions that I've seen, all the males, the big males, have got the big manes, and especially the lions we have in this area. Isn't it, Maddie, you were asking, why do lions fight? Now, earlier, that sound that we heard, they were growling, and both Viam and I heard it immediately. I think what possibly happened is maybe one of the males lay down in the shade, and one of these young lions went a little too close, possibly tried to lie on top of him or close to him, which lions often do. They're very social animals, and maybe that triggered the male to get a bit aggressive. And I think that's what happened. I think that's why they had a little bit of a scuffle, but they seem to have settled down now, and they're enjoying the shade. It is still warm, so I don't think they're going to move anytime soon. And Kayla, that's I think leading into your question about how long they rest for. So, Kayla, it depends. Lions, Taylor, not Kayla. So, Taylor, some lions, when it's very, very hot, if they've eaten, they can rest up to 20 hours a day. If they've had a good meal and close to water, they don't necessarily have to move. And when it's very, very hot, so that it can be up to 20 hours a day, but I suppose it depends again on the area, the amount of food and water available. And I think, unfortunately, that's all we have time for our school. It's wonderful. It was wonderful to have the kids from Thoroughgood Elementary. I hope you all enjoyed Safari Live with us this afternoon, and we hope to see you very soon. Thank you for your questions. So from us at Safari Live to Thoroughgood, goodbye, and we'll see you soon. all the other viewers that are still with us, hello again, and I'm sure you've been watching and we've just found these lions. Don't forget, send us your questions, please. Hashtag Safari Live via Twitter or on the YouTube stream in the comment section. You can comment there and we'll get to as many of your questions as we possibly can. And it's great to be back, everyone, and thank you very much. I know there have been a lot of messages coming in welcoming me back, and it's wonderful to be back. And what a nice start. Find some lions. It is very, very hot, but nonetheless, it's always great to see the lions, especially this pride. Haven't seen them for a while. I'm just going to try and move forward slightly because I think there might be a nice view of the male. All right, let me just, while I reposition, let's head back across to Ali, who's apparently doing some off-roading of her own. Strange since I've been around. I understand that Ferg is now qualified to drone pilot, which is great. So that's quite exciting and something fun for Fergs and Tristan to do. We're still sitting with the pride, and you can see the male at the moment. Just repositioned there. He is one of them. The other one is here too. One of the other Birmingham males. I believe it was them and it looks like them, but the one is lying at the back and this one's lying in the shade. So my theory earlier when we heard these lions was maybe a youngster, one of the sub-adults got a little bit too close to the male and they possibly had an altercation. And I think that's what happened because those three are quite close to each other in the shade there. Maybe that was what happened, but they've all settled down now. And I think they may remain here for a while. It is still very, very hot. There is a bit of cloud cover building. It looks like possibly storm clouds building that are maybe going to head our way later. But for the moment, it's still hot and they're going to rest in the shade. Now, Caesar, you were asking what variables affect the color of the lion's mane. Caesar, in my experience and what I've seen, the theory is two variables. The one is area, location, where they are found, and it's not necessarily just lions. I've heard it also affect different animals like birds, certain coloration in birds, and that making it prominent in certain areas and less prominent in other areas. So the further west we go to the west coast of Africa and South Africa, some animals tend to be a bit darker in coloration, or some birds tend to be lighter, as opposed to this eastern part of South Africa. So there is, I think, geographical influence that affects color. But then also with a lot of lions, I've read up that testosterone and genetics obviously affects the coloration of the mane. Now, I was in an area recently in the Kalahari, in the eastern part of South Africa, and the southern part of the Kalahari. And there they've got male lions that are known for having these beautiful dark manes, very, very black manes. And I think that is genetic, the Kalahari black-maned lions, as they are known. So I do think a lot of it is genetic and depends on the area where they've grown up. A lot of the lions we see here, there are some that have got a bit of black in the mane, but not as much as I've seen in those areas. Keisha, you asked about, well, you were saying your hair lightens in the sun. Why doesn't that happen with the lions and especially the manes? I'm not too sure. I think you know, with the darker the hair, I don't think it lightens. I'm just trying to think. I've got very dark hair, and I don't think my hair lightens in the sun. Not that I've noticed, anyway. And I think similar with lions, the black manes, that testosterone and the genetics giving them those black manes. I have never seen the sun lighten the manes. If I think of the Kalahari and the harsh conditions there, They are exposed to the light a lot. I've never seen any of those manes lighten with color. So I'm not sure with the hair lightening. I think someone else, maybe Ellie, can help us with the hair lightening. I wonder if her hair lightens in the sun, and she's still driving around. Let's find out how our afternoon's going. Well, Tristan, one of the males has actually just woken up and he's moving around a little bit. Beautiful view of him there. I was having a look at him. He was yawning and thought maybe he's going to move a little bit closer to the rest of the pride. It sounds like a lot has changed in the area with leopards, new leopards in the area, which is very exciting. I know Tristan was explaining all of that to you, but a lot of change. So I think some of you are going to have to help me with the new names and that. So I'll ask Tristan for a proper update a little bit later. Hopefully I remember the names of the new leopards. I suppose some things haven't changed. Tristan's back to the drawing board. He seems to be enjoying drawing his territories and pictures of the Sabi Sands. This male is still moving. I wonder if he's just going to settle down in the shade over there. There we go. Emma, I'm laughing because my friends seem to be teasing me at the moment, but you're asking about the lions' manes and if they go grey. My mane is starting to go a bit grey, so I don't know about the lions. I haven't seen a male lion with grey hair. I've never got close enough to actually investigate. So I don't think so. I think they're probably not as stressed as we are as guides. Emma, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Blue Cozy, you're asking at what age do the male cubs leave the pride? Oh, sorry, one of the females rolled over a bit too quickly and got a fright. You saw how those heads jumped up. A bit of movement and stretching. Blue Cozy, what happens usually is within a pride, when the males, I suppose when the males get to about between 3 and 5 years old, depending on the males that are already in the area, they may get pushed out at about 4 or 5 years old. And it, like I said, it depends on the males in the area. If new males come into the area, they will challenge those young males and possibly try and kill them. That may cause those young males to move out a little bit sooner. But I would say on average it's about 4 or 5 years old from what I've seen in the past. And then often those males may try and meet up with another pride, or possibly try to form a coalition, as we've seen many times in the Sabi Sands area. A lot of males forming coalitions, sticking together to take over territory and mate with females from many different prides, not just one pride. And it can happen that a young male grows up in a pride and doesn't leave. But yeah, I suppose it's difficult to say. It depends on the situation, other males in the area, the territory. Is there going to be a fight for territory? But I would say generally it's about 4 or 5 years old. Now, Tristan was chatting about the leopards, and I just chatted to one of the landowners quickly, and he told me great news actually, that he saw Tundi and her cub this morning. I know you haven't seen them for a while on Safari Live, but apparently they were seen this morning. However, they moved onto Torchwood, but it was great. They were seen, and it looks like they're looking healthy. So I'm sure Ali. Well, Tristan, it does not look like it at all. These lions are resting. It is still very warm. There's a bit of cloud cover now, but it is still very humid and quite hot. So they seem to be relaxing, and it doesn't look like there's any sign of them moving anytime soon. I think what I might do is drive around a little bit, check 1 or 2 water holes, just see if there's any activity from other animals, and then come back to these lions a little bit later. Now, Tristan has been going on with the leopard territories and explaining to you the different male territories. And Daniel, you were asking if the lion and leopard territories overlap. They do, Daniel, they do indeed. Now, the lions may have large territories as well as the leopards, especially male leopards. So there's definitely an overlap. Now, you need to remember that because the lions and the leopards fill a different or fit a different niche in nature, they have a different role as predators. The lions are pride animals. They move around and hunt together. Leopards are solitary. Leopards also prefer taking their kills up into trees, usually to keep it out of reach of lions and hyena. So they form or fill a different role within nature. So it's okay for those predators to overlap with their territories. Look, if a lion had to find a leopard, they would probably kill it, purely because it's competition. It's another predator. But generally, leopards are very elusive and they're able to get out of the way of lions quite quickly. But yes, the territories definitely overlap, as well as wild dogs. Wild dogs will overlap with lion and leopard territory. Hyena, another predator, obviously, that we see out here a lot. And all those predators, because they are different, they've all got a slightly different role, the territories do overlap. It's unlikely to have different prides overlapping. It may happen in certain areas, maybe a prominent water hole that gets used by different prides, but generally the prides do defend their territories from each other, and they will fight. So prides, various prides, do tend to stick to their own territory, but it may overlap at times slightly. The males, however, for example, these 2 big Birmingham males, they would move between different prides, so move through different pride territories, but those prides would be in their entire territory. So the males have got the large territory, and within that territory there will be a number of different prides, sometimes up to 3 or 4 different prides. Now, I think Tristan's got some more insight to territories for us, and a big male leopard that he'd like to chat to you about is a male leopard I actually saw last year again. I've seen him a few times, not here, but in the south on Londolozi. So let's hear what Tristan has to say about the Anderson male. Dear, we seem to have a few gremlins, but I think it's all sorted out. I do apologize for that little glitch. We lost signal there, I think. But you're back now, and we're still with our lions. They have not moved, and there was 1 or 2 little yawns. I'm not sure if they're going to get active soon. I was hoping with this change in weather, it's become quite cloudy and looks and feels as if there is a storm on the way, maybe a little bit later. But the temperature has dropped, so I was hoping these lions would decide to move around. But for the moment, they are still very relaxed. You never know. There's a bit of stretching. There's a bit of movement. There's that little cub, it's a youngster. There we go. It's moving. Tristan was telling me about this one. It still looks quite young. I think there are the 5 females, the 6 sub-adults, and then that one little cub, or I think that's what it was, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to sit here a little bit longer. Let's see if they start waking up. But let's go across to Ali, who's managed to find a stripy individual to show you. Well, we did have a little bit of movement, Tristan. One lioness came out the bush. There she is over there. So, yeah, I think I was right. The 5 adult lionesses, the 6 sub-adults, and then this little cub over there. It's got his head up at the... Or he or her or his head. I'm not sure if it's a male or female. Is it a female? Thanks, Fiona. It's a little female. Couldn't really see with her lying in the grass there. That's nice to see. And then the 2 males that are just on the other side. There's the one male is still fast asleep. There he is. There's a little bit of movement, but now it seems as though... Oh, there we go. I think he's just changing position. I don't think he's going to move anytime soon. Maybe with his leg lying on that female on the other side, or that sub-adult, might get them to move. I often find it fascinating how lions are able to lie around like this and roll on top of each other, or when one is resting, another one may walk up and fall on that one. You know, it's quite entertaining to watch them sleep and doze off like this and lie on each other. Very social cats, always a bit of contact. It maintains the bond within the pride. That one just put its legs on top of the other one's face. Oh, a little sneeze by that male startled everyone. There we go, some heads up. Now that's often a good sign that they might begin or start getting a bit active. Stretching, rolling around. Yeah, a little drongo calling. I heard some European bee-eaters earlier too, so still a lot of beautiful birds around. All right. Well, there's been a bit of movement, that little cub has come closer to us. There we go. There's some cleaning on the other lions, but look, this little one is now getting active. Has been moving around a bit. There we go, that lion is cleaning herself. Now, I noticed she's got is that gash, Viam, that you mentioned? Have a look at that. Yeah, that's a serious wound. I wonder what happened there. Was it perhaps from a buffalo, Viam?
I don't know, but it's there for almost a year now.
Oh, really? Well, Viam says this wound has been there for a long time. I don't remember seeing it when I was here in October. I'm just trying to think now. Been there for a while. It's obviously a deep gash that hasn't been able to heal properly. That's quite interesting, because usually these big cats have the ability to heal very, very quickly. So I'm not sure why that one hasn't been able to heal. It doesn't look like it's affected her too much. It doesn't look like she's lost condition or anything like that. There's still this cool breeze at the moment. There's still quite a bit of humidity, but yes, she's actually cleaning it now. Now, usually that helps the wound, but it does looks very sore. It's not pleasant, but all that cleaning usually does help it. Sure. So now I'm just looking at the way she's cleaning it, and I see it's bleeding a little bit again. But, you know, that cleaning of the wound. We know the lion's tongues are very, very rough, so even just her licking a few times like that could open that wound slightly, just cause it to bleed a little bit, but it is cleaning it, so it's important that she does do that. And I've seen with many big cats, cleaning and licking the wound very soon after a while, they will heal. And I think that's why she's cleaning it. Now, Gemma, you were asking when would a vet be called in. So, Gemma, in a situation like this, we wouldn't call a vet in. And some of you might be wondering why. Oh, that is a nasty, deep wound. Some of you may be wondering why we wouldn't call a vet in. Now, we need to remember, I know we do get a little attached to these animals and we see them quite regularly, and it's wonderful to see these lions, but these are wild animals. We are purely here to view and observe them in their natural habitat. These lions, and that wound, for example, and that lioness, that was caused naturally by perhaps a buffalo, or I can only assume it was a buffalo. I'm not sure, but so something that has happened naturally, we cannot interfere with. If, for example, this lioness somehow managed to find a snare that was put there by poachers, then we would call a vet in, because that's human intervention. So that's not a natural injury. Then we would call a vet in and try to help them. But any other injury, natural injury, we need to, it's difficult at times, but we need to respect nature and nature taking its course. Survival of the fittest, it's not always easy for us to see, but it is a way for nature to maintain a balance, predators and prey. And, so it is difficult at times to see, but it is something that we need to observe and accept, and even though it might not be easy. All right, well, it sounds like Tristan has been drawing up a storm, and he apparently now thinks he is Picasso. I wonder. Let's go and have a look what Tristan has drawn now. Now, we're getting more and more activity now from the lion pride. They're starting to clean each other. Look at that, all three lions cleaning now. That is all a sign that they're starting to get a bit active. Sue, you're asking how rough the tongue is. Now, I haven't felt it personally, but I've looked at it quite closely before in sightings, and I've heard it being kind of compared to, I think, rough sandpapers. So if you can think of very, very coarse sandpaper, you actually get different different textures of sandpaper. Some are a lot more rough and coarse compared to others that are very fine. The really rough, coarse sandpaper is apparently what the tongue is like, and it has got little fine hairs on it. And we also see it, a nice indication of a rough tongue is when they're feeding on a carcass, a buffalo or wildebeest or whatever the animal is. You hear lions, they often lick the carcass to open it a little bit more, clear some of the hair off, and that shows you how rough that tongue is. So I suppose that would be the best thing I could describe it to, some really rough sandpaper. If you imagine that being pulled over your skin, it's not pleasant. And I think they could take some of your skin off, if I'm not mistaken, with their rough tongues, if they lick for a long period of time in the same spot. At least there are a few heads up now, and they are cleaning each other. We've been very patient. I've been hoping to see these lions get up and go for a drink down at the waterhole, but maybe they were a little bit too active yesterday. It was very warm today, so they're possibly still enjoying this cool weather before they decide to move. See that lioness actually nibbling a little bit, possibly found a tick, trying to get a tick off the ears. Lions are responsible for keeping each other clean, keeping insects off like ticks. Sounds like Ellie's been wandering around all over this afternoon, but she's managed to find some of my favorite animals, some more of them, which I'm not sure if it's the same ones we saw earlier. Let's go and have a look. The beautiful beasts that are elephant up on quarantine around me at the moment. And we're going to put some infrared on. There's been a bit more activity, a bit more cleaning. The other male, we can't really see at the moment. Oh, can you see him there, VM? I think a little bit left. Is he not through there? There he is. Oh, his head is up at the moment. I heard him yawn and stretch. Maybe he did. There we go. That's another yawn. So I'm thinking that he might decide to get up and move soon. I'll keep an eye on him. Maybe he decides to head a bit closer to the pride. I was really hoping they would get up a bit earlier and move around, but they seem very relaxed at the moment. Oh, nice cool breeze. Oh, much better than it was earlier. It was very hot when we got started this afternoon. Now, I'm assuming these lions will, we've been watching them most of the day. And they've been resting, but they do look hungry, and it appears as though they did try hunt last night, but they weren't successful. So I'm assuming that later they when they do get active, they'll possibly go and drink some water and then move and try to hunt something. So who knows, maybe tomorrow morning we find them with a kill, on the remains of a kill. I can hear one of my favorite little creatures at the moment, a pearl-spotted owlet, calling in the distance. Got that beautiful whistle. There's also, we've parked very close to a marula tree at the moment, and these marula fruit have been dropping right next to us. VM has been a bit nervous, worried that the marula fruit is going to fall on his head. But luckily, I think we're just out of reach of this marula tree's fruit.
Like a bomb shot from Death Marula.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking about the marulas, and I was chatting about it earlier, about all the elephant, and Ali's says she's got some elephant that are enjoying the marula fruit at the moment. Well, I think so too, Ali, and I'm glad you got to see those Ellies again at the end. But look here, we've got a little bit of activity now. This cub is getting playful. The lions are moving around. Most of them seem to be just moving into the road. Have a look. This male is displaying phlegm. Sorry, Vim. Oh, here comes the other male, and he's just lying down. That male, however, is displaying phlegm, that phlegm grimace. A female urinated there, and he's busy tasting. You see how he tastes that urine, puts it on his tongue, and then places it on the back of his palate, on that Jacobson's organ. It's called a Jacobson's organ. Allows them to tell whether or not the females are in estrus. And this male seemed quite interested in one of the females earlier. So I think that's why he is hanging around here. And it's interesting. So that process of tasting the urine and putting it on the Jacobson's organ is known as phlegm or phlegm grimace. This is when they pull their face like that and it looks as if they're smiling or snarling. So interesting to see. But the other male isn't interested in coming any closer. So I wonder if this one to our left is a bit more dominant. That would be my guess. So this one is just keeping his distance. As long as he doesn't get too close to the other male and the female, then he should be fine. A lot of activity here at the moment. Look at those, that little cub playing. Wonderful to see. Oh, what a great afternoon. Lions, elephant, Ali saw some zebra. Tristan Tristan Da Vinci drew for us. That was great. Pointed out all the leopard territories. I'm sure a lot of you found that quite interesting. He may have to give me a lesson, I think, again. I can just make sure I haven't forgotten anything. And there are some new names I heard him mention that I don't recognize. Great first afternoon back for myself. I've enjoyed it a lot. I hope you have too. I felt a little rusty in the beginning. I don't know. So give me a few days. I'm sure I'll find my rhythm again. It just felt a bit strange, different guiding again. But thank you again, everybody, for the wonderful comments, and the questions this afternoon were great. Always enjoy new, interesting questions. There's definitely a bit more movement now. I think often what happens, the lions get up, they move, stretch, yawn, maybe lie what looks like they're going to be lying in the middle of the road, and then possibly start moving later and possibly trying to hunt. Michael, thank you very much. You say thank you for the epic drive. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I'm glad we found these lions fairly early on. They growled initially. We thought they were in the block, but fortunately they were in a nice open area for us to see them and view them. Well, thank you very much to Tristan and Ali and Fergs and Senzo on the other vehicles. And of course, the voices in my head. It was Rebecca this afternoon in final control. Thank you, Rebecca. Wiem, thanks very much. We'll see you all tomorrow morning on Safari Live. Have a wonderful evening and goodbye, everyone.